Hello. Today I'll be talking about a reading called Don't, the Secret of Self-Control. And I'm not going to go over all the questions, but I'm going to go over a few that I think are really important. This is something I'm going to be doing for some of the readings, but not all of them. Uh, making questions so you can answer as you read them, and B, doing videos about it. In the beginning, I'm going to do it more frequently because I think we all need that maybe support with the readings. And then kind of as time goes by, letting the class discussions kind of be the focal point where we talk about them. Um, so the whole idea about the questions is just to kind of help give you a sense of maybe like what are the important things you should be looking for in the essay. What I would personally do is just kind of take a look at the questions before you read, and then as you're reading, kind of just answer them as they come up as you note them. And so since this is something that's really informal, I would treat it as such, where you can, maybe write these down as you're going, or just maybe even highlighting things if you're able to do that online, or if you're able to print these out, you can kind of do it that way as well. But just the whole idea here with the questions, just to kind of help us focus on these sorts of things. So, all right, let's talk about this reading then. So the marshmallow experiment is something that you'll see is a big part of the introduction of this essay. And so Walter Mischel, and by the way, if you want to Google marshmallow experiment, there's a lot of different versions of it to kind of show you what it kind of looks like. And I know reading about it is one thing, but seeing it is a totally different other thing. So if you want to take a look at that, there's some great videos out there. Uh, Really hard. I had a hard time finding his original one. I don't know if it was recorded. I don't think so. But you can see people who have done their own versions of it and stay true to the original one. But basically, just to answer this first part, the experiment is a child is given the option of a treat. And so one of the that's I think that's really important to note, because I think people, when they hear marshmallow experiment, they assume that everyone got a marshmallow. But that wasn't true. If you notice in the first paragraph, the author mentions that the kids are given a choice between a marshmallow, pretzel, and chocolate. I think now I'm doubting myself, but they're given an option of three things. And the reason I said this is so important is that if you're testing someone's self-control, right? What if I don't want something or I don't like something, are you really testing my self-control? So just give you an example, like if we had the broccoli experiment, it might look like all 4-year-olds are the most patient and people ever on this face of the earth, and had the most self-control ever, because they could go, several minutes without wanting to eat that broccoli. And so I think that's what's really important about this, is if you just gave everyone marshmallows, there's probably going to be some kids that don't like marshmallows, or aren't maybe as tempted by marshmallows. But if you're giving them a choice to pick the thing that they really want, then that's when you're going to be able to test self-control. At the end of this essay, when they talk about testing for self-control in adults, that's a really kind of hard thing to do, right? Because we could, if wait things out, and we have the ability to do a lot of these things to kind of distract ourselves. So there's a lot of ingenious ways that they figured out how to test that in adults as well. But basically, in terms of the kids, they pick the treat they want, and then they're told to wait in a certain amount of time, and that if they wait the entire time without eating said treat, then they're able to get another treat. Predictably, most of the kids, and I'll let you get down to the exact numbers that they give, that most kids don't wait, and that they eat the treat before the time is up. And so in the article, you'll remember that there's two things, and those two things are called high and low delayers, right? And that is referring to your ability to delay gratification or have self control. Do you have a lot of that ability or a little bit of that ability? The other thing I just want to kind of mention here is going to number 5 about the if then patterns. I think this is something that's going to come up a lot because this is an idea that I think really kind of relates not only to the topic, but a lot of things in this unit, where when we look at something, um, why someone does something, it's not always just, oh, like that's just how they'll act in any situation. So I'll give you an example what if then patterns are. So in the essay, you might remember the whole camp experiment where you look at a camp, kid at camp, and that if a authority figure tells them to do something, that they're okay with listening to that authority figure. But if a peer tells them to do maybe the exact same thing, that they react negatively to that peer. Or if like they're teased by a peer or they're teased by an authority figure, they're going to react differently. So if then patterns are basically, if X happens, then this is how I'll react. Like if I'm in a big crowd, then I'm going to act as if I'm shy. Or if I'm with my friends, then I'm going to be outgoing. And so it's the whole idea here with if then patterns are looking at the sort of breaking down like the situation and seeing what's happening in that situation and realizing that, people are not like when we look at aggression or shyness or whatever personality trait you can think of, that it's not going to just kind of be universal, so that in every situation the person's going to act the exact same way. And so I think that's something really important when we're looking at this, like Westmore and things like that. The last thing I just want to say is when we're looking at this article is thinking about, okay, great, a lot of interesting stuff in here. How the heck does it relate to family, right? Because when we look at this essay, we have to connect it back to what does this say about family. And so I'll give you a little hint here. About a little over midway through the paper, he talks about, and he being Walter Mischel, the person who designed the marshmallow experiment, talks about how family and your ability to practice self-control, how those two are very related to one another, right? And your socioeconomic status is also either giving you more or less opportunities to practice self-control. And so basically, there's a section where he talks about how childhood and where you're raised and how you're raised feeds into your ability to practice self-control. And that, as we'll see in the article, the author states that people from a certain socioeconomic background might have more opportunities to practice self-control. And so that environment slash parents is also really important in terms of determining self-control. Again, though, I just want to state, and the article does state this, that while these predictive models of like, if you fail the marshmallow test in air quotes, that more than likely you're going to have problems in terms of self-control later in life. It's not a guaranteed thing, right? And that there are ways people can change, and that it's, people can get more self-control throughout life. And so I don't want to just say, it's like, oh, if you're born in this society, family or something, you're no way you're ever going to develop it. And that's of course not what the article's saying too. But if you are born in a certain sort of environment, as the article mentions, that if nothing changes, that this is what we can predict might happen. So I think that when you're looking at this article, it's really important that we focus on what this says or what this helps us say about the essay. And so if the essay is all about family and making an argument about how important family is, or maybe how unimportant family is in determining success, then we got to figure out how to incorporate this essay into our paper. And so, I think we would all agree that having self control allows folks to be more successful, as the article states. And right now, what you need to do is figure out how family fits into that, right? And so that's the last thing I just want to kind of end on, is that was like trying to figure out how that relates to our topic. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a section of the article that does touch on this, and it's about midway through the paper. If you read the essay and you're still totally stuck about how this relates to our topic, let me know, because we are not having a class discussion on this one, but I can always have a discussion with you one-on-one if you still need to kind of go over some of the material. All right, so that is sort of my thoughts on the reading. And if, like I said, if you have any more questions about it or you need more help with it, I'm more than happy to answer those questions or go over them with you via email or Zoom or whatever works for you. Okay, bye everyone.